gummy bear.
It's the internet. You're busy. Let's do this for January 6, 2022. For the next hour or so, let me help you sort through the world of gaming on Game S Mornings Live with me, Jeff Grubb. Today, Goose Goose Duck is the latest hot new thing I've never heard of, and Xbox is no longer yelling, "You're unconstitutional," at the FTC. But first, please join me in welcoming today's co-host to Game S Mornings. It's Tamoor Hussain, everybody. Tam, how are you doing?
I am returned. I am alive.
I love to see it.
Somehow tired. I feel like 2023 has been a year long already.
Yeah, it won't stop. It just keeps coming at us, 2023.
When will this year end?
Yeah, it's like a freight train, and we are strapped down to those tracks.
God.
But I'm glad to see you. Glad you're back. Glad to have you on the show.
This is the first time I've been on the show with the Mick Foley era Jeff Grubb.
Yes.
Which I'm very excited about.
Yes,
how are you doing, Jeff Grubb? How is your hair doing? I've got some feedback.
Yeah, let's hear it.
For you. First of all, let's it's not for you, it's for Mitch.
Okay. Yeah, sure.
But let's see how you're doing first.
I'm doing pretty good. Still coming off the sick. Well, still sick, but I'm doing okay. Mostly it's just coughing, and that in the beginning of the day like this, I'm fine. I was coughing most of the night, but I could wake up and feel pretty refreshed. And then at the end of the night, when I've been coughing all day, my headache is really bad. I'm like, I just need to go lay down. But right now, I'm doing pretty good. And then in terms of the hair, I'm getting pretty frustrated by that ongoing Metroid Prime rumor rearing its head again. And I'm like, did I really do this? And now they're going to actually say something. I have no idea.
I remember when you said it last time, and I remember watching it and going, this man's going bald.
Yeah. And it's like really good sources on the stuff. It seemed good.
So the thing is, I had heard similar things, so I understood why you did it, but then I was like, Nintendo though.
It's Nintendo. Exactly, Nintendo. And that's the thing with Nintendo. You could have is
Nintendo. They'd be like, Nintendo is the kind of company where you'd be like, of course, yes, this makes perfect sense. This is the perfect time. You'll have multiple analysts and I don't know, fucking magicians being like, Your Highness of Nintendo, now is the time to release Metroid Prime, and they'd go,
mm-hmm. Exactly.
We're gonna delay it.
Yep. What's the reason? Fuck them.
Fucking why not?
Yeah, because why not? Exactly. So
they've got that one game. Which game is it? Xenoblade? Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, give them that. Give them Xenoblade.
Yeah.
They're like that. We'll celebrate Metroid Prime's anniversary with Xenoblade. That makes sense to us.
What? No, we're not going to release Metroid Prime.
Get it out there. Doug Bowser doing me dirty like always.
Douglas, please.
Yeah, Dougie Bow.
My feedback for Mitch was, as someone who has had long hair for a really long time, the manner in which Mitch cut your hair was highly disrespectful.
Yes,
he was just grabbing chunks of it and just
laughing while doing it.
That was not good. Everyone who's at the very least, you comb it and you take small amounts at a time. He just straight butchered that hair. And it's highly disrespectful to people who have long hair and also to people who have no hair. You know what I'm saying? Because they look at that and they're like, that's fucked up, man.
Yeah.
That's fucked up.
I've had many persons of baldness come up to me and say that they do not represent, they believe Mitch Tokoda does not represent them, is what they wanted to say. Because they're like, I would not have done you like that. I said, thank you very much, Jeff Bakalar, for saying that to me. And I definitely felt, at a certain point, I'm like, well, this is my punishment. But he took it too far. Right?
It's just a level of respect that you need to give towards something like that, because it's not like you were trying not to have your hair cut. You were up for it.
Yeah.
We needed imagine if you needed a moment of silence. Mitch was basically shouting during the 2-minute silence or 1 minute silence to honor our fallen hair strands, our fallen follicles.
Yes.
And Mitch was out there just being like, oh, Mitch, I like the fucking Kingdom Hearts. It's like, all right, man, please calm down.
Just like him, absolutely. Yeah. He did have to end up shaving his beard, so he did that in solidarity. So good.
Of course, if you want to see the moment in which our commissioner Mick Foley had his hair cut.
It was created.
You can go. Yeah, you can go to TikTok where there is a TikTok of it.
Yes, go find Real Giant Bomb. I think is what it is.
Yeah.
Go find Real Giant Bomb.
Listen, I'm going to be honest with you folks, duders. We need to be juicing up the TikTok right now.
Yeah,
because
that's a good
there are
TikTok
people.
too.
It's good TikTok. Let's juice up our TikTok. Let's get in there because we're making. That's where the money is.
Is it?
Okay.
Shit.
I don't know. Fucking
who knows? Who knows where the money is? It might be there.
We're gonna have fun. We're gonna have fun on TikTok this year. So it'd be good if people check that out.
I'm excited. All right. Before we get into this mess, let's explain ourselves and what we do here. Most weekdays, I, Jeff Grubb, will help piece your gaming life back together. That includes breaking news and maybe even some of our own original reporting. For all these topics, I'll get the input of a bona fide expert who will make me look smart. If you are watching live on Twitch, welcome. You can always listen to the show later on podcast feeds by searching for Game Mess Mornings or find the RSS on giantbomb.com. You can also catch the show later with chapters and timestamps on YouTube. Hello, YouTube. All right, we have a lot to get into, so let's start the morning mess with Xbox maker retracts allegations that the commission is violating its Fifth Amendment rights, and that's, of course, the Federal Trade Commission. This comes from Brendan Sinclair at GameIndustry.biz. Axios reports that Microsoft has retracted its allegations against the FTC. A revised filing removes the section in which the platform holder suggested the commission's actions violate the U.S. Constitution, although maintained the rest of its arguments that its proposed acquisition of Activision Blizzard will not affect competition in the games industry. Microsoft public affairs spokesperson told David Cuddy told Axios, "We initially put all potential arguments on the table internally and should have dropped these defenses before we filed. We appreciated feedback about these defenses and are engaging directly with those who express concerns to make our position clear." Tam, to me, this seems like them recognizing that they have a strong case without trying to bring in some constitutional argument into it. And if they got to a situation where suddenly they were forced to defend their position that the FTC is violating the Constitution, that is only going to muddy the waters and distract from what is otherwise a pretty strong case for Microsoft, right?
Yeah, I mean, like on a scale like this, obviously, it's been a long time since I've had to use my law degree, so who knows what it's like these days, especially in America. But like, when you're starting off, you put out some, and in a situation like this, you put out the arguments that you want to make.
That's
like
right.
You make a lot of them, and then you basically try and overwhelm everyone. You're like, we got all of these arguments we can make, so you best just sit down and let us do what we want. And then over time, you start to see like which ones are gaining traction, which ones have the good backing of it, which ones are like from a PR perspective doing better than the others, and you start like cutting out. So like Kid Cudi over here is just like, maybe this one's not the one that we should be pushing day and night. So I think that's a lot of it is in that. But yeah, this as you know is feels like it's a bit of a distraction from like the core arguments that are more likely to be a success. And if you let those ones linger too long, they can weaken your overall argument by drawing too much attention, even distracting from the overall kind of intent or the actual the actual arguments or the positions that you have that are strong. They could, this kind of the FTC is violating the Constitution could become this like PR lightning rod that sinks the entire effort. So I think they want to get ahead of that and just be like, oh, we didn't really mean this one. This was kind of like we thought we could, but like our bad. We're not going to say that anymore.
Now, there is a Supreme Court case right now that is essentially arguing exactly what Microsoft was saying in here before the Supreme Court right now. That decision is coming in the next few weeks or months. Should come down before. I'm no expert on this, but I think it comes down before this issue with Activision and Microsoft is set to close. So really, Microsoft doesn't need to bring this argument. It has already been heard and essentially ruled on by the Supreme Court. And it seems likely will file in favor of what Microsoft is saying here. And in that case, things really changes the reality on the ground for them here. But Microsoft has an option in that case, or it would have had an option if we're not past this period. And we might be, again, no expert, to file a friend of the court, an amicus brief, saying, hey, this is what we believe in this case and why we think it's unconstitutional. And they don't need to do it in their own FTC case, which again, as you were saying, would just distract resources, the attention of their console, and potentially could turn into a PR boondoggle for them. So I expect them to just say, like, let that Supreme Court case ride out. Once that does happen, if it does change the reality on the ground for what this case can be, Microsoft will then respond at that point. In the meantime, they should just be focusing on things going ahead as they are set right now, and they could just say, hey, you're being weird about how Nintendo isn't a real video game console, so that's where we should be focusing. And again, that's a very strong case for Microsoft if they want to make that argument.
Yeah, agreed.
CD Projekt is set to settle Cyberpunk's 2077 investor lawsuit for $1.85 million. This comes from Tom Ivan at VGC. CD Projekt will pay $1.85 million to settle a class action lawsuit alleging that it misled investors over the quality of Cyberpunk 2077. The suit was filed in December 2020 by Rosen Law Firm, which was seeking damages for CD Projekt investors under federal securities laws. After 3 delays, the highly anticipated RPG was released for PC and consoles with a host of technical problems, resulting in refunds being offered and the game temporarily being pulled from the PlayStation Store. Investors essentially said that the game was presented in such a way that they were misled about the quality of the thing, and in the end, that hurt the stock price of CD Projekt Red in a way that was felt like having the rug pulled out from underneath them. And it's like they weren't fully truthful with their investors, which by law they do have to be. The $1.85 million, though, Tam, seems like a very tiny number compared to the amount of money that game probably made, right? This is barely a speeding ticket, it seems like.
Yeah, I mean, as of, I think it was April 2021 is when they, reported revenue. They reported that, including refunds, they had made, $500 million off that game. Mm-hmm. And that was, back then. Since then, we've had the announcement of a expansion pack featuring Idris Elba.
Yep.
Which would no doubt would have pumped up the sales numbers a bit as well. Edge Runners continues to be one of the best shows of last year, and people talk about it. So you've probably got a decent boost out of that as well. Yeah, it's a drop in the ocean for 1.85 million to settle a class action lawsuit and basically kind of get this the final black market against the Cyberpunk 2077 release just out of the way. Feels like they're getting a good deal out of it, honestly. And not to say they're getting away with some sort of fucking crime or whatever.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean they put in the work. Fair play to them. I was pretty critical of Cyberpunk when it came out. I still haven't finished it. I'm actively playing it, but it has improved significantly. And the stuff that was core to the game that was really well done and really strong is now shining brighter because of the changes that they've made. So not only are they paying not a lot of money to kind of get this blemish removed, they've also done the hard work to make sure that when people buy the game or play the game, it's in a much better state, which it definitely is.
Yeah, it's although you see the most recent thing where fans voted it as the labor of love thing on Steam, because they did so much work on this, and then another group of fans are freaking out about that, this game doesn't deserve that, and they're once again review bombing it. And it's oh my god, this shit won't end.
Gamers are freaking out.
Gamers are freaking. What? Damn, have you heard about this? Have you heard that gamers can freak out? I am very surprised.
Are you telling me gamers?
That's how I'm going.
Oh, come on. I don't expect that from gamers. Come on.
Not
no way.
Gamers.
No,
come
on. Gamers. Nah. You're pulling my leg.
The thing with 1.85 million, already a low number. That number is also going to get split up. They mentioned in this story, it's some of that's going to go to pay for the counsel and the actual lawyers, and probably a significant portion of that. In the end, I believe they said this represents about 44 cents around there per share. So, but I'm not sure if that goes to everyone who has a share of CD Projekt Red or only the people who actually took party in this lawsuit. But I mean, either way, 44 cents per share, pretty low. All right. Goose Goose Duck breaks Among Us concurrent players record. Among Us is so they have it with a one apostrophe. It would be Among Us's, right? I know it's a tough one. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
It's like I feel like it's the way I'm supposed to say it, but from Barrett Khan Ozkan at DualShockers, Gaggle Studios' free-to-play social deduction game, Goose Goose Duck, has become the third most played game on Steam this week, smashing through the concurrent players of Apex Legends, Call of Duty, Modern Warfare 2, and PUBG Battlegrounds. Most importantly, Goose Goose Duck peaked at 563,677 players on January 5th, breaking Among Us's all-time record from 2 years ago by over 100,000 players. This is an Among Us clone. Among Us had like 440,000.
Is it an Among Us clone? Yes, it is an Among Us clone. Have you seen this game?
I put the story. I started hearing about it yesterday, and then when I was putting these together,
go to images.
All right, let me do it right now.
And you will see that it's an Among Us clone, my friend. Oh, buddy.
I'm bringing it up now.
First time I saw this, I was like, "What? Why is this allowed?"
Oh my god! Oh yeah, it has even like the same like pop up fiery element when like someone gets killed and stuff. Oh my god! Yeah, this is just the same game.
I believe in Among Us parlance nomenclature. Hella sus. Is what I'm saying. But yeah, I don't know, man. Concurrent. I feel like a lot of this is pushed by kind of streamers and people who are tastemakers or numbers drivers being like, I want to play Among Us, but I want to play Among Us that isn't Among Us. Mm-hmm. And, you know, one of the friends plays this Duck Goose game or whatever, Goose Goose Duck. And then they're like, yeah, I'll invite my other friend who's got 1 trillion subscribers and my other friend who's got 1 trillion subscribers. And before you know it, this clone is just everywhere. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think that's exactly what happened here. According to Daniel Loud, it's big in Asian countries, but people seem to believe that its real inflection point, if that's the right word, was when BTS member Kim Tae-young streamed it. Go. And I'm like, well, I mean, you talk about tastemakers. I don't know if it gets bigger than a BTS member. So once they...
I will be saying nothing derogatory about BTS or BTS members.
God,
BTS
you're always the bigger man, Tam.
Fantastic.
You're always the bigger man. That's
BTS,
what I like about you.
I love BTS fans. We talked about the gamers earlier. Very opposite of the gamers.
Fans.
The BTS fans. Incredible people. One day, BTS fans, I will no doubt require a massive and powerful force to defend me. And in that moment, I hope you remember this.
Yes, absolutely.
I think that BTS is incredible. BTS person for president of the United States.
I don't get BTS. But I will give it a real shot in 2023.
BTS music is actually pretty sick, too.
I will give it a shot in 2023, absolutely. So I mean, that's gonna help a game like this. Still, 500,000 for a clone of Among Us, 500,000 concurrent players for any game is nuts. And this is definitely one of those things where it's like we could try to work backward and explain it, but really it's something you could never ever really like understand and definitely could never replicate. This is a thing that just happens outside of the control of anybody. But also, I think it shows, and the next story is a little bit about this as well, that the gaming market is overall pretty healthy, where new successes could just come from anywhere, and they could just pop out organically, and no one could really control it. You could try to force it, but at the end, there's enough interest in gaming to drive anything to massive new levels of success, and here we are with that again. And
yeah,
let's get to that next story so we can build on that. Dwarf Fortress sold just shy of 500,000 units in December. Within its first months on the shelves, the enhanced version sold almost 500,000 copies, developer Bay 12 Games said, with more specific numbers expected in February. That's a game that was, created for 12, 14 years, something like that. Had the ASCII graphics version. People had played it for a very long time, but it was always a hobby for the creators. Now putting it on Steam, getting around 500,000 copies sold pretty quickly, that is a big payday for them. And again, it shows like, hey, if you create a game, put it on that marketplace, the market is ready to scoop up as many copies of these games as possible. And again, the market is so dynamic that success can come from anywhere. Even a game that's like, oh, you could have played this for free for so long, but now that you just you put it in front of people's eyeballs and where they're already willing to spend money, and they will.
Yeah, I mean, like, this is one of those moments where you're like, great, I'm glad this is happening, because like you said, this has been in development for so long. and the fact that they can put it out as a a retail product, and it does this well, like it just shows that like a good idea and a good game will just like you will you usually get paid dividends for it. And the best part of it is like it's bringing it to a broader audience. Like the original Dwarf Fortress is incredibly hardcore, and this is still like quite a niche. Like it's got a hell of a learning curve, but like the payoff for once you figure it out is so funny and so fascinating and really interesting. The stories that you can have and like the fun that you can have with that game is like immeasurable when it comes to like figuring it out. Yeah, good for them.
Exactly. Yeah, good for them. And you're right. These are the kinds of games that you hear people tell stories about, and of course, there's something very attractive about that creates this social currency that people want to partake in. I know that I feel that where I'm like, man, I want to have my own stories in Dwarf Fortress to swap with other players. That would be great. And I still plan to play the game here pretty soon. I put a little bit of time into it. I'm still building my understanding of how to actually get to that point where I'm telling my own stories. Chat's being like, I'm not actually complaining, chat. You can keep doing it. Being very distracting with the links today. Propaganda Panda dropped IGN.com/article/DC Joker pregnant baby father Zatanna.
No.
And I'm like, is that like one of those YouTube videos for kids?
No,
where like
no,
the Joker is like impregnated? It's happening. All right.
No. I think Joker was like, went to Zatanna and he shot his shot. He was like, Zatanna, you're hot as hell, please. Would you have my baby? And Zatanna was like, absolutely not. Only person having your baby is you. And then made him pregnant with a little spell and had his baby. And I think the method of delivery is the baby was vomited out of his mouth, and it looked like a baby, but it had adult Joker's head. So that is the story of how Joker gave birth to his own baby and got absolutely owned by a woman. You'd love to see it.
I gotta say, that does actually sound exactly like those YouTube videos my kids stumble on. So, so good for them for taking inspiration from the true punk rock artist of our day. Those bizarre YouTube videos. I'm gonna look into that a little bit more. I gotta see a vomit baby, of course. NetEase has acquired Halo and Minecraft co-developer Skybox Labs. This comes from Tom Ivan at VGC. Founded in 2011 and based in Burnaby and Victoria, Skybox has made two original games, 2016's Tasty and Lethal Tactics and 2019's Tasty, Lethal Tactics, and Stella. It is also the co-developer of many high-profile games from publishers, including Xbox Game Studios and Electronic Arts. It's worked on EA Sports UFC. The studio is currently working on Halo Infinite, Minecraft games, and Fallout 76. It previously contributed to other Halo and Minecraft titles as well. It's also worked on Age of Empires and Project Spark. According to Friday's announcement, Skybox will operate independently within NetEase Games under the leadership of its three co-founders, Sheyang Kong, Derek McNeil, and Steven Sylvester. It will continue to work closely with its existing partners to continue co-developing games in the PC and console space, and will be adding new ones in the future. This is a quote: "We have built a team of talented individuals who are passionate and creative, and by joining NetEase Games, we will also be able to accelerate our plans to pursue new creative opportunities and enjoy access to world-class operational resources and the full breadth and depth of NetEase's services so we can scale faster in Canada." Now, Tam, this is another acquisition at a period where I think, at least I was assuming acquisitions would slow down, and clearly I think they have. But they're not going to slow down to zero, right? We're not going to drop to the bottom where no one is picking stuff up anymore. Even like NetEase, a company in China, China's had its economy slow down drastically. You kind of can't afford to stop making these acquisitions because that is how these companies have figured out how to grow, and they're going to keep doing that, right?
Yeah, I think what's going to happen now is there's going to be a shift in scale of acquisitions. I think that during the peak pandemic era, the kind of the economy is not great right now. It's not bounced back. It's not fine, but it's a lot better than how it was when these acquisitions started to come, to fruition. I feel like what we've had is a period of major acquisitions, big names being bought up, and the thing that now these companies face is now that they have those acquisitions, to make good on what those acquisitions can produce, create the games, the big budget games, or the big budget projects, that's how they make their money back, right? Or they start generating revenue, start building momentum with those acquisitions. And the tricky thing is, like, companies are spending so much money on these acquisitions that you can't just let these companies just work at their own pace, or you need to scale up almost around the rest of the company to help support these acquisitions.
Yeah.
So I feel like the acquisitions that we're going to get now are going to be acquisitions like this studio, which is probably no one could have told you the name of this studio a week ago. Yeah. And you definitely didn't know that they worked on all the games that they worked on, like, Minecraft, Fallout 76, Halo Infinite, those things. You don't really know these studios, but they have done big work on big projects. So I think the goal now is from companies like NetEase, from companies like Embracer, even the Sonys and the Microsofts, they'll start looking at smaller teams that have some experience with support roles, or even like lead roles, for example, and put them into positions where they can support these big acquisitions now. For a Crystal Dynamics to really pop off now, they're not just gonna, like, for example, let's take Embracer. They acquire Crystal Dynamics. They don't leave Crystal Dynamics to it and just be like, good job, like, make the game that you need to make. They like, make something quicker so we can make our money back. And then Crystal Dynamics goes, we've got a limited number of resources. And then Embracer's like, here's all these smaller studios that we can now support you with. And I feel like support studios, smaller studios that can grow, are where the acquisitions are going to be for the next couple of years.
Yeah, I mean, I think you make a point that is very important right now, that the acquisitions we're probably going to see are going to be acquisition of talent, where it is support studios and people that can actually create the games that are already in the works. Because during the big acquisitions, the ones that were the big ticket items, that was about IP. Like, they were spending a lot of money to get IP, and sure, they were getting a lot of talent and studios and infrastructure to make that happen in the meantime. But really, like, the IP is worth a lot more, because when you acquire these studios, some people are going to stay, but a lot of people are going to take their shares, cash them in, and then move on pretty quickly. Like, that's just the way that employment works. And so you can only keep so many of those people around. And so what you need to do is you got to find a way for someone to actually do the work to create these IP, or turn these IP into products that we can sell. And so it has to keep churning, and that means getting some of these smaller support studios. I think that all that said, like, we probably will see some of these companies still pull back the gas a little bit on acquisitions. Yes. Someone mentioned in chat something I used to say all the time, is like, inflation was a big pusher early on for making acquisitions, because everyone knew inflation was going to be a problem in about a year or so. And this is before we got that big rush of inflation. And they knew that their money was going to be worth less in the future. And developers, actually acquiring these studios and these publishers, they were going to be more valuable because there was going to be more competition to acquire them. Now we're in that sort of period where inflation is still going to be bad for the next few quarters, next couple of years. Who knows? No one knows. But you have to assume the inflation is going to be pretty bad going forward still. And then the other pressure is like, well, are developers and publishers going to be worth more or less? And it's like they're trying to do that calculation. And again, no one really knows. But in certain circumstances, they're going to be like, well, we do see this as a pathway for growth. And it's like trying to, I bought a house and was trying to time the market on that. I didn't do a great job on timing that, but also it's like, we had to do it when we had to do it. And in a lot of cases, that's how these companies are going to look at acquisitions going forward, I think. Mm-hmm. But if you're worried about consolidation, that's going to continue to be a thing to a certain degree. But it's, again, when people get bought up and they're the talent that work at these studios, a lot of times they get that money and they're able to move on. So, and again, the video game industry is so dynamic that they're going to be able to move on and create their own studios. Thankfully, that's still working.
Yeah, and I think like the concern obviously from a lot of us is the consolidation and, one company or one or two, three companies owning everything. I think that's definitely a concern to have, and definitely a concern that can be held with authenticity. But it's also important to keep in mind that there are definitely studios that are emerging at the same time.
Oh, yeah.
It's just they don't get the same attention that we give major acquisitions. So like for me, one of the things that I constantly think about is finding the newer studios and paying closer attention and maybe doing more to speak about them, or creators, individual creators. I think like if you're one of those people who loves video games and keeping up with what's going on and might be somewhat concerned about the consolidation happening, sadly there's not much you can do to stop that. What you can do is look for new talent, upcomers, or even existing talent that is making big games but perhaps isn't on the scale that
they had their payday and they moved on. They went on to create something new somewhere else. Yeah, that happens all the time.
I think of like, it doesn't need the support because it's done amazing work already, but like it was a studio in this way before, like Supergiant. There was a time when Supergiant wasn't as big as the company that made Hades and just announced Hades 2. There was a time when they were just making Bastion. And there's a lot of studios out there that are doing small projects that have a lot of talent. So try and find those and like big them up a bit. So that kind of helps to bring a little more balance to the outlook on the industry, if not the actual day-to-day what's happening, if you know what I mean.
Right, and I mean, and the industry's changed quite a bit in the last few years, where it's not actually just small studios anymore. Our Wolves in chat mentions Arc Raiders. Arc Raiders is from a relatively new studio founded by people who were at EA and a bunch of other studios, and then left to create something new. And kind of an unheard of. It's more heard of now. This is more common now, but unheard of. They hadn't released the game and already had something like 250 employees because they got so much investment money, because people are pouring money into new ventures in the gaming space in a way that they really hadn't ever before. And now that studio's working on like 3 major AAA games. And again, none of them have come out yet, but that's where we're at. That's how dynamic the market is right now.
Yeah.
All right. Let's move on here to a kind of a weird one. D&D game at Hidden Path seemingly not canceled in bizarre mix-up. That's the headline from Stephen T. Wright at GameSpot. Earlier this week, Bloomberg reported that Dungeons & Dragons brand owner Wizards of the Coast had canceled at least 5 video game projects as part of a move away from digital gaming. However, in a strange twist, one of the studios specifically named in the report has publicly announced that its game is not canceled, and stating that it just wants to set the record straight. Bloomberg reporter Jason Schreier is standing by his reporting, tweeting multiple times that a Wizards of the Coast spokesperson and an unnamed source confirmed that the project is actually still canned.
A wizard told me. A wizard told me. Who am I to say the wizard is a liar?
A wizard in a tree. He came and told me about, the Hidden Path studio.
We were standing on the coast, his home, and the wizard told me.
He said, it's dangerous to go alone. Take this. And it was a note that said, Hidden Path is fucked. It's weird. The Hidden Path was, reportedly working on a AAA open world third-person single-player RPG set in the Dungeons and Dragons universe. Tam, I don't really know how to suss this one out. It's clearly one of those situations where it seems like the game actually is canceled, and maybe Hidden Path doesn't know. Or I think the other option maybe is that Hidden Path does know and believes that it's still contractually obligated to be paid by Wizards of the Coast, and they're going to play that path. They're like, no, we're going to keep making this game because they owe us the money as long as we keep working on it. Or maybe there is some weird confusion and things aren't as they seem. But I really don't know how to read this story, Tam. What about you?
Yeah, I would not be surprised if they just haven't been told.
Yeah, right. And
considering how
a nightmare, but yeah,
that's awful. But sadly, it wouldn't be the first time a game developer has found out that their game has been cancelled from reporting. And in that situation, it's very reasonable to be like, nope, we've not heard anything officially, so we're carrying on making this game. So as far as we're concerned, it's not been cancelled. To kind of come out there and say publicly, nope, it's not been cancelled, is the kind of step that makes this complicated, because usually people will just be like, okay, I'm going to email my contact at the license holder or the rights holder or whoever is up the chain, figure this out, and then report back. The fact that they've come out and said, nope, we're still making this game, it's not canceled, then means that it could be what you said, in that they're trying to set themselves up so that they, are adhering to any contractual obligations, so that later on down the line they can make the case that they need to be paid some amount, or that it amounts to work for a certain period of time and that kind of stuff. It's really tricky one. If I had to bet on one of them, I would bet that it just got canned and they haven't been communicated properly, because that's a lot of projects to can. It's a lot of individual teams to tell. And maybe this stuff kind of, this stuff seemingly has got out before, Wizards of the Coast intended. So to a degree, like, the news has jumped the gun.
Right.
So sadly, it's a sad situation regardless. It's a bunch of studios that can no longer make a game that they were building, a bunch of people that was probably potentially out of a job. But yeah, it's a weird one. It probably is cancelled.
Yep.
I hope it's not.
I was going to say, I think I'm right there with you where that's the one I would bet on too, that it's been canceled and they haven't been properly told, which is wild and unfortunate. And I agree with you. I hope they're able to, I hope somehow it is a mix up and they can continue working on it and it actually is going to come out and all that stuff. It sounds promising, sounds cool, and this studio has a history of doing cool stuff. So,
all I'm saying is maybe we should be a little more careful with Wizards.
I've never trusted them personally.
They seem to be constantly bringing bad news. Fucking Gandalf showing up, being like, "I need you to take this fucking ring somewhere." Again, everyone in trouble. This wizard canceling games. It sucks.
I just imagine Jason Schreier holding the report and just, why shouldn't I report it? And then, okay. It's a meme, everybody. I just told you about a meme. All right. HTC Vive XR Elite standalone AR/VR headset has been revealed. This comes from Murdad Kiat at DualShockers. HTC officially revealed its next flagship VR headset that can be used by both gamers and non-gamers for VR and AR approaches. HTC Vive XR Elite, XR standing for mixed reality, is an all-in-one device that will give you access to a wide variety of features, games, and activities that you can do both in virtual reality and mixed reality environments. While you can use XR Elite as a standalone device wirelessly, it can also connect to a PC in case you want to use it for PC VR gaming or run some VR games via Steam Launcher on PC. The device is priced at $1,099. It's arriving in March, and pre-orders are live now. It's got pretty good specs, 90 hertz refresh rate, 110 degree field of view, 3840 by 1920 combined resolution, and a pretty good feature set. Part of me is surprised, Tam, that we're still getting big headsets like this from companies like HTC. I don't know. You tell me.
Here's the thing, Jeff. We've reached the part of Game Miss Mornings where you have to make a decision, and there's the branching path.
All right.
Right?
Tell me what I got.
So your two options are, you can have Tamoor Hussain's industry take, or you can have Tamoor Hussain's personal take. Which one would you like?
I need that personal take.
I don't give a fuck about VR headsets that are over $400, $500. I don't care. Okay, This needs to stop. Who is paying $1,000 for VR headsets? Okay, unless you're some sort of weird VR person that does like content creation around VRs, or you're a business, or like some ridiculous. This is not for. I'm not paying $1,000 for a VR headset. I've got an Oculus Quest. It pops off. It's like $300. I'll probably get a PlayStation VR. That's expensive as hell, but you know what? They're pretty good.
And Astrobot's real good. Yeah.
Yes, that's $500. I think $1,000. $1,000. Okay, I don't care how many resolutions it's got in there. I don't care how many X's it's got in the name. You are having a giggle. I'm not, fam. It's not happening. Shut up.
Now, what if I said that with this device, having sex with cartoon characters is better than ever?
I would like to retract my earlier statements. I have seen the haptic gloves now. Okay.
Yeah.
All I'm saying is there could be some situations where $1,000 is okay.
It's just a single tear rolling down my eye. I'm in there with cartoon characters. All right.
I mean, the industry take is good for them. I'm glad that there are companies that are still kind of. The thing that I want is, if you're making a $1,000 VR headset, I need your headset to push VR forward so that that tech can then be reverse engineered back into something cheaper, which is generally what happens, right? Like the expensive Oculuses came out so that then eventually they could get to the point where a Quest and Quest 2 could happen completely, independent, not having to connect into the PC or whatever device. And it's a really, really good headset. So this thing is interesting. It's got like a very, very high resolution. It's got a 110-degree field of view. It's got a refresh rate, but there's nothing in there that blows my mind that I do think, oh, this is worth having out there so that eventually it can benefit cheaper consumer level VR headsets, broadly speaking. I think the thing that is most exciting about it is that it's got all this stuff in there and it's relatively lightweight, which is like, okay, cool.
Yeah. And it's the form it's like the form factor that we in kind of want. One that does both AR and VR. And so it does everything. It's wireless in terms of working with the PC over Wi-Fi 6E, or you could use a cable, but it also is standalone. So if you don't want to connect it to a PC at all, it can do that as well. It's like it checks all the boxes except for that price, right? That's where I'm at, where I'm right with you, where that price is just too high for all that, especially after living through the VR bubble there in 2014, 2015, and recognizing that it's not as urgent or necessary as we made it out to be at the time. I'll wait until it is very accessible, and while they kind of figure out all the rough edges. I'm a little surprised that companies like HTC are still in the game about figuring that out, and good for them. Like
was this shown at CES?
Yes, a big CES thing.
I don't give a shit about anything. Everything at CES is nonsense, okay? Everything they show at CES is ridiculous nonsense.
Right, this one does, the pre-orders did go live, so it is a real thing, but yes.
It's a real thing, but the stuff that pops up at CES, like, largely is nonsensical. There's some things that obviously that are, like, pretty cool and amazing and, like, good to have. Like, Sony's accessibility controller looks pretty cool.
Yes,
but like, did you see that controller, the Asus one that's got an LED LCD screen on it?
And it's like, I was like, I'm trying to read like what the screen does, and they're like,
it shows you your battery. I'm like, are you serious? That's it.
Can I even put GIFs on it? Just give GIFs or something like that. It's like it's all bullshit.
Custom animations, and it will show you your battery. It's like, so you're literally wasting time. Okay, gotcha. Sweet.
There was like an Xbox, the Xbox Duke controller remake from a few years back that had a big OLED LCD screen right there in the middle where the Xbox logo used to be. And it's like, so this is something that's already happened. Why are you treating this like it's a big new thing that anyone cares about?
Unless I can raise like Chow on there or something again. Like, we already had this. Okay, Sega did this. We don't need this. Sega perfected it. Why are you coming at us again, Asus, ROG?
Yeah.
Go away.
Republic of Gamers, man. Someone needs to vote them out.
They do make some good shit, though.
Yeah, of course. I have a lot of other things. Okay, last story that I have here. Xbox's first 2023 event is not necessarily going to be a huge E3-like show. This comes from Alex Hopley at Gamer Actor. Microsoft is rumored to be hosting an event in the first quarter of 2023, and while expectations are that it could be held before February, apparently we shouldn't be getting our hopes up about it. According to Windows Central's Jez Corden, who in response to a tweet about the Xbox Showcase said that we shouldn't be waiting too long, and that we also shouldn't expect anything along the lines of a major showcase.
That's what it's going to be, okay?
Yeah,
have you seen those ASMR streams where it's like the microphone, and then on either side is like this ear?
Sure.
It's like a fake ear, and they go around there like,
I'm totally, man. Yeah, I'm
that,
well
but
aware
with
of
Phil
those.
Spencer.
Oh.
And every time he does it, he just like leans in and says the name of a game and like licks his lips a bit, like
Fable.
Starfield.
Yeah.
Starfield, Fable. That's what it's gonna be. It's gonna absolutely pop off, and that will be it.
And really, that's where they should be focusing their efforts.
Yeah.
Listen, I would personally love that, but give me Major Nelson instead of Phil Spencer. Let's let Major Nelson put that mouth to work. What that mouth do, Major Nelson?
What that gloved hand and that mouth do?
I think that is closer to what we'll get than an E3 showcase, because they for years now, right? They've been saving all of their big announcements and big assets that they produce at these developers and publishers underneath the Xbox label for E3 proper. They like, hey, we are going to do one big major thing per year, and we're not really going to be focusing a lot on other things, and we'll just wait till the next E3 before we do it again. And I think that's like there's two factors there. Like, one, I think they like saving everything for E3 because that is really when everyone's paying attention, and they want to have the best E3 showcase possible. And also, I think developers are over like having multiple times a year where they get derailed from working on the game to go make assets for a showcase that is basically just a commercial. That is a lot of developers have like really kind of come down hard on having to do that in the past. And it seems like it's shifted away, especially during the pandemic, of like, we're just not going to do that anymore. That was always stupid. It's more stupid than ever. We will do it. Yeah, we understand we got to sell the games, but we'll do it when we're ready, when we have more time, when a game exists to actually sell. And so, yeah, I think Microsoft's like, you know what? You're right. We shouldn't be forcing these developers to create. And even when it's like cinematics, even when it's like a CGI trailer, that still takes a lot of time away from the developers, is what I've been told repeatedly now. So this isn't surprising, right? That's going to be a small thing.
Yeah, I not at all. I think the interesting, like, you're 100% right. I think the tricky thing that Microsoft faces is they've had a couple of years, and definitely last years, where they basically felt like they weren't involved in anything, like in a major way. And they definitely were. They were present, but like in terms of their presence in events and also their output, very, very non-impactful, lightweight, like very slight footprint on the industry last year. I think the tricky thing that they have is they made all these acquisitions, they started doing big projects, and a lot of those projects were further out than they were capable of showing. And then they faced that issue where it was like, we can't really take these developers and make them show things when they should be making these games. But they ended last year with a situation where pretty much everyone was like, so where's Xbox at? What are they doing? Mm-hmm. And Game Pass has been incredible for them. Like, they've been doing a lot of great work there. But the things that really kind of start knocking doors down and making them present are big announcements, showing trailers, which is stuff that other companies do to various degrees of success. You see the Sonys who have a better cadence and Nintendo's who have a better cadence of showing things off. Like, Nintendo's not amazing at it. They'll let games just kind of languish in obscurity for a really long time. But Sony's pretty good at it, where they'll have a big thing, they'll show it off, and then you won't see them for a few months until they announce another big thing, or they have a bunch of little kind of like showcases.
And when it goes bad for Sony, it's because of a delay or something like that, where it's like, exactly. This feels weird, like Forspoken, whatever. But Nintendo, it was delayed.
Yeah, Nintendo will like keep their big games. They'll announce it, show it once, and then you won't see that thing for 6 months, and then you might get lucky if you see it again. But they're very good at having regular cadence of small games that they are attuned to knowing that the broader community wants to see. The indie games, if I had to guess where Silksong is going to show up, I would say like maybe on a Nintendo thing, maybe more likely than anywhere else.
Because last time it was at the Xbox E3 show, and so there was some deal there. But I still agree with you.
Yeah. I mean, like, I'm not saying Silksong specifically, but like, you get what I mean. But the kind of like indie caliber, like they know what indie games 100%. Or smaller games that the larger gaming community is interested in, and will try and get those involved. I think Microsoft doesn't do either of those. They don't have these smaller things where it's like, hey, we don't have a major game, but we do have a series of small games that are not from us, but we're partnering with, that we want to show you. And they don't have the big, like, here's the next major game from the Xbox Game Studios. And I think that they're going to try and find a balance of one of those two things a bit more this year. So I suspect this is the first of a series of smaller things. And it might just be like, we don't have games to show. We don't have a lot of games to show, but here's Phil Spencer. Here's, I don't know, Major Nelson, Aaron Greenberg, whoever it may be, Matt Booty, talking about what's going on. I think the communication they're gonna try and be better about that this year, if I had to guess. At the very least, that will help them stave off some of that same kind of like static feeling that people have been having around Xbox, which is only a good thing.
Yeah, I mean, and you're 100% right that it's time. It's time for them to kind of figure that out, because it's been multiple years now since they've introduced Perfect Dark, Fable, Avowed, game after game that, you're right, we saw a trailer, and it's been not like, in many cases, not like 1 year, but closer to 2.5, 3 years. And it's okay. I mean, we get games are taking longer than ever to develop, absolutely, but it is time to sort of come clean a little bit about the status of most of those games. Now, they do have to get past Starfield, Redfall, Forza. Those games are going to be first up on the docket of, well, we have to sell you a game first before we sell you another game that's coming out later. And I get that, but it is time to start talking about those other games.
Yeah.
Oh, can I get a package? Don't show my address on stream, kiddo.
Yeah, don't get doxxed by your own child.
Thank you, kiddo. Good work.
I also feel like the idea Xbox stuff is always the strongest thing that they have, and I wouldn't be surprised to see them elevate that a bit more.
Yeah.
Because in light of everything we said, I think that's where the real strength is for now. So I'm excited
those
to see
streams
that.
have always been a bit meandering for me, where like they mix up showing off the games with a lot of lengthy interviews, and I like both. I just don't necessarily always like them together because I'm like, I get in the mood for seeing a new game. But you're right. I think they will figure that out this year as well. At least I hope so.
Yeah, I suspect they'll just fold them into like a broader thing and not move away from the idea Xbox side, but like just try and elevate the profile of those games so they don't feel like not also rans, but like a niche within the Xbox community or the Xbox ecosystem.
This box says that the return address is NOA from Redmond, Washington.
Nintendo of America.
Did Nintendo of America send me a pipe bomb in the mail? Why would they send me something?
it's just a blue shell. Yeah. Just hovering with energy. The moment you open it, it's gonna be a picture.
It's gonna be a picture of Doug Bowser wearing a black hair wig. All right, I'm gonna open this out of camera, and there's something in there. I'll show it off.
Yeah, I heard you were talking shit about me literally 5 minutes ago.
Oh man, that's well, all right then.
Yeah, just be careful not to open it on camera in case there's something embargoed.
Exactly. Yeah, that's why I'm going to open it down here. Let's go to the poll real quick. Do you think you'll be able to walk into a store and see a PS5 on shelf before E3? 71.5% say yes. 28.5% say no. A lot of responses from people to the same. This is already happening for me pretty frequently. I think the spirit of this question was like, every time you go into the store, will you be able to see one in the same way you see a Nintendo Switch? It's kind of what I meant. And people are like, well, I see one every once in a while. And I think that, it's close enough. But I do think that we are getting to a point where the shortage is over, right, Tam?
Yeah, I think so. We reached that point, I think, late last year, where I think we definitely reached it online. Like the ability to find one online was way easier by the end of the last year. So I think it's only a matter of time before they're just in stores. My question is going to be like whether the interest is going to be super, super high still. I think most people are picking them up online at this point. But they'll probably knock out some new bundles. God of War, another bundle. They already had one, but I'm sure they'll do another one. Horizon DLC bundle. Death Stranding 2 bundle, maybe.
Yeah,
I guess.
I think all that stuff's on the table. Yeah.
Yeah. Hollow Knight Silk Song. No, I'm kidding.
I opened the box. I forgot that I made an order from the Nintendo store. That's what it was. So I got my Kirby, and I got a Kirby shirt for one of my kids. So there you go, everybody. That's all. Less, not quite as exciting as a pipe bomb
Your
from
kids
Doug
like
Bowser.
Kirby?
Oh,
they
adore Kirby now. And like
tell
last
them
month,
to grow up.
They're like Kirby. They start saying Kirby's way better than Mario, and they hurt my feelings. Yeah,
baby games.
Yeah, exactly. But
when are you gonna get your kids on Sekiro?
That's what I'm saying. He's gonna say a From game. Yeah, you know what? I heard someone on the Bombcast this week. Someone sent an email saying their 3-year-old really likes Elden Ring. And they like watching Elden Ring because they call it the tree game, and so I'll try that. I'll put Elden Ring in front of them and see what happens.
Take my 3-year-old. Let's go. Absolutely.
All right, I'm gonna put a new poll in here. In the meantime, Tam, what's going on with you? What's going on with Giant Bomb for the rest of the week? What do you want to tell the people?
The rest of the week, homie. It's Friday.
Hey man, who could say? Who could really say? Who knows for sure?
Yeah, I mean, like like I said, it's Friday. Still got a bunch to do. We're gonna have Unprofessional Friday happening later, I believe. I think Sekiro Choa is happening after this. It's on my calendar. I'm not 100% sure. If it doesn't happen, don't blame me. But yeah, like Giant Bomb wise, we are still warming up. We just got back. We have a lot of cool ideas for things that we want to do this year. So we're going to be doing a lot of planning stuff for a little while, but you'll be seeing hopefully new content this year, some exciting things happening. I'm trying to get a regular stream on Giant Bomb going as well, but it's still that time of the year where I need things to settle in place and for there to be a clear situation.
Exactly.
Where
we are
like,
figuring
here's
stuff
the
out
hours.
still. Yeah. I mean,
yeah.
Being
So
sick has not helped.
Yeah. Being sick has not. I had COVID. You've got maybe COVID.
You may. I'm gonna find out. I thought I was like hoping the box is actually my COVID test, but no.
Yeah.
Nintendo not sending me
Imagine
COVID
if
test.
Nintendo of America sent you a COVID test.
Yeah, it'd be fun. The vitality sensor, once and for all.
Yeah, there is. There's a COVID center. It's got fucking Captain Toad on it. He's like, I went on an adventure and got COVID.
I went on an adventure into your face, and I tested you, and yes, you have COVID. Just the little Captain Toad walking around on my face. Yeah,
just like COVID.
Jan does say he's going to Sekiro next, so fantastic. I put up a new poll.
That is a good game, and people should watch it.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's fun to watch Jan figure that game out. He's it's good. He's like got the right sensibilities about a From game. Do you have interest in purchasing a VR headset that costs more than $600? I'm gonna tweet it right now. Well, I gotta make the poll actually a poll. And let's see.
Tweet it like this. Just absolutely unhinged.
Here, I'll do yes and no, Jeff. There you go.
Yeah, this before you click that. Propaganda Panda says, I think the poll in question should be, did you know the Joker is pregnant?
We'll do two. We're gonna do it. It's gonna unprecedented 2 polls.
Here's the thing. Here's a way you can improve your polls. Okay.
Yes.
You do the polls, and then you just attach a completely unrelated, just confusing image. So, like when you did that previous one of the VR headset, if you had attached a Joker image with him pregnant, people would have been like, "What is happening?"
See, they don't allow you to attach images to polls, but I could reply with an image, I suppose.
Yeah, do that instead of doing a second poll.
Okay. All right. Great. All right. So we are going to go to here, and we're going to look up Joker pregnant, and we're going to hope for the best. Joker pregnant. I have.
It looks like you're searching on Twitch.
Yeah, sure. I am. Is this it right here?
Yeah, that's the one.
Okay. This is cool. This is wonderful stuff. Tam, thank you so much for spending time with me talking about video games today. I think.
See, that's what I'm here for. Okay, like everyone else does the important stuff throughout the week. I get the stories that are like, does anyone really care about any of this? So what can I do but accept just trying to make it as unhinged as possible?
Absolutely.
You know? That's why I'm here to bring the energy to your Friday.
Oh, I needed it. I needed it so bad today. Thank you so much, Tam. Thank you, everybody, for listening and watching. You're the best audience in gaming. Until next time, have a good one. Take care of yourself, and goodbye.